It would do good if I unmuted myself. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How are you two doing? Good morning, Michael. Good morning, Donna.
Happy to see you.
Awesome. Well, it is great to be a part here on Experience Friday Live. This is our second show for Michael and I, and we're still getting some kinks out. So please be patient with us. But most important, it's our first episode with an amazing guest, Donna Porter, who is a very dear friend of ours. Remember that Experience Friday Live is a weekly show where we humanize the complex world of experience ecosystems together by connecting you with bold thinking experts like Donna, who aren't afraid to challenge the status quo. As well, a couple big announcements this week. Season 5 of the Combustion Chronicles started with Colin Shaw. And next week is, if you've not listened to Blake Morgan, she's phenomenal. Next week is Blake Morgan. That will drop next Wednesday. So go out and follow the Combustion Chronicles. Wow. Michael, I don't know about you, but I'm really, really excited to have our dear friend Donna with us today.
Yes, because whenever Donna's around, she elevates that conversation with anybody. So I look forward to her elevating our conversation, which hopefully isn't too shabby anyway. But it's great to take it up a notch.
Yeah, well, I want to read, and so you're going to hear me read Donna's bio because I can't do it justice trying to do it on my own. So Donna, our guest today, is an experiential architect, which I love, who develops human beings instead of performance beings. With more than 20 years of experience in adult learning and leadership development, she maintains certification in multiple developmental tools and is a certified coach through the International Coaching Federation. She has inorganically moved into unique experiences across multiple sectors, such as the travel industry, retail sales, banking, hospitality, and higher education, including formative experiences with Council Travel, Saba, Whirlpool, the University of Notre Dame, and her business, Marisol Collaborative, where she is the Chief Exploration Officer and owner. So she lifts up and supports leaders as they unapologetically lean into curiosity, empathy, compassion, and possibility without getting caught up in labels, job titles, organizational politics, and inhuman performance management tactics. Holy cow.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah, so Donna, I'm going to start with the first question, and then Michael can take over. Why is it important to embrace leadership and culture as part of your and our experience ecosystems? Yeah. Why is that so important?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been really thinking about this. And why it's important is because we're humans. And leadership and culture is all based on humans. I don't see or foresee how a machine is going to be able to have that heart that we've all been born with. And so it's the leadership that sets the vision and the foundation for where our culture is going to head, right? And they're the ones who are reinforcing that. And another word that comes up as well is followership. So if I have a really inspirational leader who shares the vision, who cares about me as a human being, who is really wicked smart as well, right? They know the business sense, they know what needs to happen, but they do it with empathy and compassion, and they're truly leading. They're going to create that culture that's going to bring people along, and then the business results will happen organically.
Michael,
I'm still stuck on the because we're human part. Right?
What? Human?
Right. Yeah. Of what does it mean to think about the good, bad, and the ugly of humans as you're talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And not to get tripped up there, but I think that's just the genesis of so much of what we're talking about.
I think it is. And I think about traditional leadership development, traditional management, that we do need to focus on the business results. Because when I think about publicly traded companies that I worked for, I've got to answer to the street, right? I've got to make the numbers. The thing that I think is what I saw happen is that organizations may have had an inspirational leader and they had the operations that came along with it. But what I saw for me personally was a pendulum swung. It swung from having inspirational leadership to purely operational leadership. And then we lost the human element. And when we lost the human element, we have many disengaged employees. They're still working and showing for a paycheck. So what I do appreciate, and you talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly, what I do appreciate what's happened through COVID is that it's bringing the human element to forefront for so many reasons. And now I think the challenge for our leaders are, how do I go back into this operational environment, but how do I show up and how do I support the humans when they're at? Because they are now stepping up and they're asking for more and different things than what they asked for before.
But let's talk about it from a business perspective. So, we hear about it often, and if I'm really honest, I feel this is fluff. Like, why are we giving so much attention to the fluff? This is just all the touchy-feely extra stuff that's happening. There's always going to be some fluff in there. But what's the business case to say, no, this is really important to pay attention to at this point?
Well, and Donna, before you jump into that, because I want to play the devil's advocate here, and that's why I love the three of us on here, because I'm really tired of us using the word fluff. And I think we actually have generations. And a matter of fact, we're going to have a Gen Z expert on at the end of the month. Her name is Hannah Williams, that goes into organizations. It's not fluff to Gen Zs. It's not fluff to millennials. It is purpose. It is passion. And we have to change, or leaders that are still thinking that, oh, this is fluff, are going to have to change, in my opinion. So, Donna, we're going to throw that to you because...
Well, and I'm a Gen Xer, right? And I'll tell you, working in an organization, right, when I'm like, let's talk about emotional intelligence, let's bring that in. And I was even coached with, Donna, if you're going to talk about it, you got to connect it to the business results. Okay, got it. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, and we can go out there and Google and find ample results about how the business results increase when emotionally intelligent leaders show up. When I think about what's really happening now, this fluff, and if we are not really becoming a purpose-driven or redefining what our purpose is in an organization, we have a whole different war for talent now than what we used to have, right? People are leaving organizations making well over 6 digits. I just heard, I was listening to NPR yesterday, and there was a segment around Wall Street and these young professionals who are coming straight out of college into these jobs on Wall Street, working 98 hours a week, and they can't keep them, even when they're giving them salaries at 22 years old, anywhere from $150,000 to $175,000. They cannot keep them because this generation is saying, no, I want to work with purpose. I'll take a drastic pay cut to go and work with an organization, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, in order to have purpose. And so when I think, Michael, back to the business case, is that if it's a war for talent, and if we have organizations that aren't just surviving, that they need to thrive, they're going to have to meet people where they're at. And I would say even the Gen Xers, I can't speak for the baby boomers, but the Gen Xers are showing up saying there's got to be more to this. There's got to be more than just a 9 to 5 and this, grind. And I want to be someplace where I know I'm valued and I can work with my purpose and my passion. And yes, get the business results to do that.
Yeah, we had the privilege of interviewing Emily Chang for the podcast, The Combustion Chronicles, a few weeks ago for the season of the Combustion Chronicles. And one of her quotes that just wreaked havoc in my head was she said, all this talk about how we're going back to work in terms of hybrid or remote or, is the wrong question. We should be asking ourselves, why we're going back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what everyone's doing, even if they're not saying it. That's what everyone's doing. And this huge shift to the power is in the hands of the labor right now. Yeah. And the folks who are in the leadership, back to our topic for today in terms of leadership and culture, the leadership has to adjust to that. And that affects the entire ecosystem of the experiences that we're trying to look at holistically.
And I had to just put this plug in here since it's our show, Michael. Emily Chang's book, The Spare Room. If you have not read it, read it. Because it's her perspective of how, as a leader, how she lives that balance purposefully in her life, in a way that I was not expected when I read the book.
Right. And if you're not familiar with who she is, she's currently the CEO of McCann China, but has had all kinds of really important positions through places like Starbucks and other large companies, global companies.
And she started her career right here in Cincinnati, which was really exciting. I found out, so that was awesome. Okay, so and we can go here. So, Michael, you started with this a little bit. So, Donna, how does leadership affect other parts of the ecosystem? And how does culture affect the other parts of this experience ecosystem that we're talking about, in your opinion?
Yeah. So I love the graphic that you guys have put together, because it's not linear, it's interconnected. And this once again goes to the ecosystem is led by humans. It's not led by machines. Yes, they do the operational work for us. But the leadership and the culture, and this is the other piece, and this was actually called out in one of the graphics we're going to get to in a little bit, is that a leader needs to have a systems view. And that's what your graphic does. It puts it into an ecosystem, a system view. And if I am only taking a siloed view at something, I'm missing what's happening upstream and downstream. And I know that people look at, well, think about it. You guys are both fathers. And your children look to you to look at the environment around them so that they feel safe, so that they feel secure, so that if a storm is coming, they know that you've got to look at that and you will take the right measures to take that into place to make sure that you thrive as a family and they thrive as your child. I think very much the same should be happening in organizations. I don't want a parent-child relationship in my organization. But it's the responsibility of that leader. If they are not looking out for each one of these experiences, and if they are not trying to find a way to connect it, then they're missing the boat. And one of the things that I think about this, though, too, and I just want to put this in here, that larger leadership and culture ecosystem has to start with a leader first. Because if I don't know how to lead myself, if I don't know how I'm choosing and the impact of how I'm choosing to lead, I'm never going to have influence over those other parts of the ecosystem.
Right. And what it means for the leader to not just rely on the company's mission statement, right? Not just to rely on things that are on the wall, but actively creating culture every single day, and to have an org chart that allows that leader to do that.
Well, you make me think about Leadership Legacy, which is one of the books that I use for a leadership development program I created. And what I loved about that book was that a legacy isn't about when you're gone or dead. Mm-hmm. The legacy is about every interaction that we have has the opportunity, and it does impact the way people show up differently or the way they work differently. So if I am not I don't have that self-awareness, or I'm not realizing the legacy that I am building, I've missed the boat. Mm-hmm. And I think about how many leaders get to a certain level in the organization or a certain tenure in their organization, and they haven't stopped to look at themselves and how they're leading and making those choices. Am I going to show up with my heart, head, and my hands? Or am I just choosing to show up with my head and my hands because that's what's always gotten me so far? And then when their time in their career comes to an end, by their choice or not, they look back and go, what just happened?
Mm. And I think a nuance for me before we jump into this next graphic is leaders are not one personality type and one set of experiences, right? Leaders are human too. Yeah. And so it's one of my struggles in hearing all of this, trend talk about, okay, you need to show up with your heart. You need to, some of us hear that as, just being more employee focused. Some of us hear that as bleeding heart people who need to sit in circles and sing Kumbaya. Yeah. And so where is the settling point that is the minimal viable product for a leader to navigate this heart stuff? Because it is a spectrum, right? And it is possible to go too far into empathy, too far into heart, because again, we're human. And there are lawsuits, and there are issues, and there are, standards, and there's still a business to run, right? So what's your take on how to position different humans in different ways to have an impact in this new world?
My heart is beating like rapidly as you put that out there. Because I don't think there's not a one way, one size fits all. I think, you take me back to when I was doing a leadership development experience with a global team, and this individual is from Brazil, and they come in and they kiss people, and so you think, and so we had a discussion around cultural nuances and cultural differences and what works here, and so it's a matter of understanding those cultural norms. And then I would even say, as a leader, though, am I still right for the environment that I'm in? If I've had this transformation for myself and I'm in an organization that is highly operational, they're all about the numbers, and this is how they do things, I have a personal decision to make. What am I saying yes to and no to? The other thing you were talking about is that you made me think about this leadership side and this heart. And I feel for leaders, people, because I look at all of us are leaders. We have to lead ourselves first before we can lead others. And if we choose to go down this path to explore something new, whether it's with our head, our heart, or our hands, people don't always have grace with us. Right. Because I'm trying out new skills. And I'll tell you guys something, what it's like being a leader at a high level or mid to high level in an organization can be really, really lonely. And a lot of times, those of us who are on the front lines, we don't get it. And we don't have grace for those leaders, but yet we're asking for them to have grace with us.
Right. Like demanding, expecting.
Right. Exactly.
My feelings are hurt if you don't. Right.
Exactly. So this even leads me to bleed into the whole conversation around leadership and culture. And when you think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's yet another layer and another perspective that we can choose to see the world through the lenses of others. It's another perspective to take on.
Well, I want to be real sensitive to time here, and I don't want us to not talk about this amazing graph, Donna, and I'm going to put it up here and talk a little bit about it for us.
Oh, sure. So Josh Burson, for those of you who are in the HR world, organizational development, leadership development, Josh and his team are thought leaders in this space. And he actually created this an article to go with this chart back in January and it's really around, as you can see, what have we traditionally been, which is around business-centered organization. But when we think about trends and what's ahead and what's coming, is moving towards that human-centered side of the equation. And if you think or reflect back onto the conversation that we've just been having, you see here on the right-hand side, on the right column, around the vision, the goals, growth perspectives, driven by purpose, mission, and grit. And over on the left, so that's really, I would say, transformational leadership, human-centered, versus the other side is what we're really all used to seeing. And actually, you make me think about performance metrics. Right? That our performance metrics, many times performance management systems in our organizations, are all based on the business centered. And what people get measured on is what they're going to do. So what I love about this, it'll be interesting to see what's going to start happening or changing for our performance metrics, our performance measurements in our organizations, if there's going to be a transition to move towards the human-centric or the balance in between the two.
Yeah, and even just starting at the top of, what does it mean to lead the people instead of leading the business?
Yeah.
And this is an article of 5 trends that Josh puts out there, and this is the third of them, of learning human-centric leadership. And I'm still wrestling with this, and we could talk about this. We could do a whole conference on this, right? We could do a whole three-day conference on this. But even the last one there, try to push change through massive change programs and initiatives, shifting to understand that change is, something that small measurable steps. It's something that has to happen organically, because we're talking about changing the culture as leaders. What do we do? To even have to rethink that in this whole conversation, I think is a big topic.
Yeah, I think when you talk about change, and as leaders, right, they're supposed to drive change. Well, in other words, what it's saying is you're supposed to tell people what they're going to do, and they're going to do it. And that's not how humans work, right? That we're all in this different space. We all approach things differently. Agility, right? That's when we talk about what really needs to happen from a leadership perspective is we all need to have more agility in our personal and in our professional. And I think what COVID has done is it's really brought to the surface what I'm okay with and what I'm not okay with. And then when I'm under stress, what shows up. Mm-hmm. And now we have a choice. We have a choice about what we're going to do about it.
Well, Donna, I love that article, and there's 5 trends in that article. We could do 5 shows about that. And again, it's John Burstein's article, What's Ahead for 2021, 5 Lessons for the Coming Year. And we really focus just on number 3, human-centric leadership. So one of the things that we're starting to do a lot, Donna, within Mofi and Michael and I's passion and research is what trends do we see then coming up? This is talking about 2021, but what trends in leadership and culture do you see being most important for 2022 and beyond when it comes to leadership and culture?
Yeah. So leadership and culture. So one is, we call it agility, but adaptability. We're just on the beginnings of that. And what I love are all the, this fluff of which agility and adaptability is really coming up, in that direct connection to health and well-being. So I think that's definitely going to continue. It's not going away. We know that the freedom to work where I work, how I work, when I work, that is not going away. Mm-hmm. And there's some big decisions, and 2021 is just the tip of the iceberg on that. So this war we have for talent isn't going to stop in 2021. And the other piece I think about is really around greater system optimization. So we have these systems in place. We have these management systems, tactics in place. But now, and they were put in place more than likely without a human-centric approach to it. So how do I optimize the systems that I have for this new work expectations that I have, whether it's supply chain, whether it is, as I stated, performance management, it might be the finance planning, annual planning system and agenda that happens. And then even from a technology system, how do I optimize our systems more, better, greater for our new workforce and for the new demands of our workforce?
Yes. I would love to jump into all those topics. So maybe we need to have a virtual coffee sometime.
Yeah, that's like a wow moment there. Well, Donna, thank you for being on Experience Friday Live with Michael and I and sharing your insights on leadership and culture within the experience ecosystem. And I'm going to go dive into those 3 trends that you just talked about for 2022. And we will definitely be picking your brain around that. So again, Donna, thank you for being here with us. Just a couple of announcements before we close. Next week, we're really excited again to have another dear friend of ours with us. We call her Kat. Her name's Catherine. She's the director of patient experience for Cure for the Kids in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is a pediatric oncology group. She will be here with us next week, talking about what it's like to lead patient experience and within the experience ecosystem within her group. As well, next week, as I mentioned, episode 45 with guest Blake Morgan for the Combustion Chronicles, blowing up the CX status quo. And I do know that we're going to try to also get Blake here with us on Experience Friday Live as well. Donna, is the best place for people to connect with you if they want to learn more about what you do and what you talked about on LinkedIn? Is that the best way? Or
that's the best place.
That's the best place. Go find Donna on LinkedIn, Donna Porter. I follow her, so you can either go to my LinkedIn, Michael's as well, and find her, but we're all connected there. And again, Donna, thank you so much for being with us. Such great nuggets. Michael, thank you. And we will see you all next week.